All right, guys, welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper. Today I've got an interesting one to talk to you about. It's about the stimulus of the Exodus. Not an original thought to me, but I saw something somebody shared yesterday where they were talking about this, and I thought, you know what? This makes so much sense. It's so applicable right now. This needs to be shared and people need to be thinking about it. To start off with, though, I got a nice little bonus for you guys. Check this out. Say you have a 6x8 trailer and you're going to go pick something up. In this case, I was getting free wood mulch from town that I use in my garden. If you notice, if you have some 8-foot pickets and 6-foot fence picket, one in the front, 6-footer, 2 on the side for 8-footers, what you got is temporary walls that you can just throw up. So because of the things I periodically do for jobs, I get free fence pickets sometimes. I got some extra ones laying around. Not something that I would go out and buy just for this purpose, but whether it's a couple 8-foot boards that are maybe at least 6 to 8 inches wide, and one 6-foot board or whatever it may be, this is something I can have around, sitting around, easy enough. Throw it on my trailer, get this added on, all of a sudden I can carry a lot more, a lot easier, and it works out pretty good. So right now, a lot of people are talking stimulus money, right? This isn't stimulus money. It's my regular money. Just a stack of 20s. But people are winding up with at least a little bit of cash on hand that they didn't have originally. Now, I get it if some people are in debt, if some people are hand to mouth, where every time they get a paycheck, they spend it all and they don't have anything left over. If some people have a bunch of bills, if some people actually lost their job or had a lot of reduced hours, this is probably not going to help them much at all compared to what the actual cost of living is. The actual amount that the government is giving to people who are really put in a hard position doesn't really cover almost anything in their life. If you've been set up to a point where you're not deep in debt, where you've been able to keep yourself afloat for this past year, then the stimulus check, probably like your tax return and some other things you may have going on, is going to give you an opportunity that I want you to take the full advantage of and I want you to think about. So a lot of my life involves being prepared for the worst but hoping for the best and then winding up somewhere in between. That's one thing we've been doing for a number of years, and a lot of it actually comes from the Bible. There's been a number of things revealed to me in Scripture that the more I thought about and applied to my life, the more sense it made and the better it helped me be prepared. And then we started doing things many years ago. 2015 was a big turning point for us just because that's when we sold our land. That's when we moved 750 miles to the Ozarks. That's where we began this part of our journey, which has worked out really well. And because of some things we did from the end of 2015 through to through to the present, but it set us up where 2020 was actually our personal best year ever. I know in some people's lifetimes, worst year of their entire life so far. I don't think it's going to get better, which is why I want to share this stuff with you. But it wound up really good for us. Being prepared, that's one reason I like to have a neck knife with me, okay? I'll link a video where the friend who made this one for me talks about knife making. I like to have it. I don't need a knife every day. I don't need it in my pocket. There is one in my pocket too, okay? But I don't need one every day. But when I do need one, I'd rather have it right on me, right here available, than have it gone. And just part of being prepared, right? Now at the moment, I'm going to reflect back to the original Exodus and show you guys something you may not have realized or thought about from Scripture. And then I'm going to apply it to what's going on right now. And hopefully you guys will understand some of this a little bit better. I'm going to flip back to Exodus here. I actually do have a separate channel that's devoted to stuff from Scripture. I use it periodically. I'm about to kind of kick it into a serious amount of use where there'll be videos up there. I'll link that channel here. There's some stuff from the past. There will be some stuff coming up there forward, but I'm going to touch on it here on my main channel because whether you realize it or not, a lot of what you see on my main channel, this is the basis for. It's my Creator God, it's my Redeemer, it's His law, it's His word, it's His example, His mercy, His love, His grace, His forgiveness that allows me to be who I am and to do the stuff that I do. So even if you're not really a fan of God or the Bible, if you're a fan of Papa Pepper, if you like what we bring to the table, know that it comes from here. So just keep that in mind. But back in the original Exodus, the Hebrews had been slaves in the land of Egypt for quite some time. And it says here in Exodus chapter 3, verse 20, I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof, and after that he will let you go, and I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and it shall come to pass that when you shall go, ye shall not go empty. So he says pretty much, although you were slaves to them, and although they don't want you to go, I'm going to free you, but you're going to get paid, at least something for your time served. It says, but every man shall borrow of her neighbor, and of her that sojourneth in her house, jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment, and you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and you shall spoil the Egyptians. So pretty much all sorts of jewelry that had intrinsic value because of the stuff it was made from, whether it was gold, whether it was silver, they began to adorn themselves, okay, rather than just wearing a knife around their neck, maybe some chains of gold, some chains of silver, extra pairs of clothes. They put them on for this journey, and they had all this stuff. That way they had some sort of capital, they had some sort of purchasing power, they had some stuff to work with as they went forward. From there they offered several times to buy food or drink from different people as they passed through the land. Of course, God provided amazingly for them with manna, with water from the rock, with quail, with all sorts of stuff, but he didn't let them go empty. Now, if we fast forward to the present, guess what? We are supposed to come out of her, my people. We're supposed to be on our own personal exoduses, out of a Babylonian system, out of this worldly system, this godless system, this anti-God system, to follow and live our lives his way. When we actually moved down to the Ozarks in 2015, the whole purpose for us was to be able to be free to obey God. That was the underlying factor. And I wanted certain things, like when I rose up and when I laid down, when I walked by the way, and when I sat in my house, I wanted to be present with my family. We've done a lot of that. Actually, when Bugger was born, Buddy Pepper, I took a 2-year break from working away from home. Okay, there's a couple things like not having any debt. That was huge. If I was in debt, I would have not been able to do that. But remember, when God mentions debt, he says it's a curse. He tells us not to turn that way. He tells us ahead of time not to go get into debt. But yet these days, a mortgage is the only way to get a house. It's the only way to buy land. A loan is the only way to get a vehicle. It's the only way to get an education. That's part of a godless system. That's part of a system that wants to make you a slave, that wants to keep you enslaved, that we need to come out of her, my people. That's what he commands us to do, to come out of her, my people. So guess what? That's where this comes into play, okay? Just like when the Egyptians finally let the Hebrews go, and they were coming out of her, they came out with a little bit of an opportunity, okay? If we're supposed to come out of this system, okay, I have a video called, what do you want to be when you grow up? No. That's what it is, because I don't think you should be asking small children which spoke in the wheel they want to be. Which little sliver of the society that we've created do you want to fall into? I'm not going to be defined by what I do for work. I'm going to be defined by who I am for God, who I am to my wife, and who I am to my children before anything else comes into play. I'm not a YouTuber first and foremost. I'm not a blogger first and foremost. I'm not a carpenter or a handyman or anything else first and foremost. It's who I am to God, who I am to my wife, and who I am to my children. What do I want to be when I grow up? A godly husband and parent. That's what I want to be. I don't want to be, just some spoke in the wheel. And the more I looked at the wheel and I backed up and saw the vehicle it was part of and the direction it was heading, I said, I don't even like this game plan. I would rather not be involved in all of this. I would rather not sign up for a 30-year mortgage. I would rather not have to be pretty much owned by a job for 60 years before I can retire. I don't want to live that way. I don't want to send my children to the public school system while my wife goes somewhere else to go earn money and I go somewhere else to earn money and never see these people. That's not the life I want. I want to join together life, so we began doing things. Back to this, right? If you are in debt, I would highly recommend just getting out. I would highly recommend as vigorously, as intentionally, as possible as it is, get out of debt. Maybe it's taking a stimulus check, maybe it's taking your tax refund, maybe it's not buying a big screen TV, maybe it's not getting a new updated phone, maybe it's not getting a new vehicle, maybe it's getting out of debt. I could show up at a lot of people's houses and they could be like, wow, look at my wonderful property and my wonderful house and my wonderful car. And I could say, wow, your bank has some really nice stuff. Oh, another 25 years and you might be able to own it, huh? That's pretty cool. I hope that works out for you, because it would suck to pay on it for 22 years and then default and have no money to show for it and none of this to show for it when the bank takes it back. Okay? That's just the reality of it. We don't think that way. And there's a lot of people who do not think generationally either. It's hand to mouth, it's paycheck to paycheck. It's thinking about this weekend. It's not thinking about my children when they're raising children. That's a flaw. There are people who do that, okay? And they do things in the present so that way when they get to the future, they don't regret their past. They do things that set their children up for the future. And we're all distracted. We're all just full of the media, full of the television programming. We're coming out thinking a certain way, living a certain way, comparing ourselves to the Joneses. I don't even know any Joneses. I love that. I would much rather. So at this point, guys, how do we exit the system? This is an opportunity, okay? It's an opportunity. If you are going to exit the cities, I would highly recommend that. And why? I don't know. Again, turn back to the Bible. You ever read about the times when people were trapped in a city and they said, you know what? How about we boil and eat your child today and we'll boil and eat my child tomorrow because there's no food here because we're all starving to death. Maybe we can wait out a couple more days if we put our children out of their suffering and eat their flesh. That stuff happened. And it happened where people had no opportunity. Why? Because they didn't own land. They didn't have access to things. We may not be on a physical pilgrimage to a land flowing with milk and honey, but do you know what? If you have some land, you can get things that produce milk. Did you know that? Not only is this cow one day going to be used for milk, my children milk these sheep as well. And speaking of honey, if you get some beehives, you can have your own honey too. And even being able to have creatures like that, cows, sheep, you can hear the chickens, honeybees. Sometimes you have to get outside city limits to do that. Sometimes you have to go back to the original American dream. I believe, wasn't there when it happened, but I believe the original American dream was to be out from under an earthly king and be your own king. Not just be living on somebody else's property, but to have stewardship of some land yourself. Be able to do what you wanted yourself. Invest in it yourself, not just have somebody lording things over you. These days, the American dream seems get your profession, have your wife get her profession. Sometimes from the age of 6 weeks and up, there's certain programs that can take your children off your hands, at least till they're off to college, where they go get indoctrinated further to think and look and act and believe like the world. And then they go, you know, into deep debt to get the education in the first place. They meet someone else who's in deep debt. They go buy a house and get in deep debt. And then they try for the rest of a bunch of years to try to dig themselves out of that hole. That's not the American dream I want. I don't want to wind up with 2.5 kids and some white picket fence on some little, hill in this little house. It's just not the life I'm choosing. You guys can, but again, there's probably going to need to be things that you have to do in the present to get to a different destination in the future. There is a reason we're told repeatedly in Scripture to come out of her, my people. And this is one opportunity that you have to invest maybe these stimulus checks that are coming to do something different than those who came before you did. That's my suggestion. So perhaps you're wondering what that looks like. When we came down here, we had $10,000 in pocket. It's all we had. I would have had about 50% more. I would have had another $5,000 if I didn't, tried to invest it in something that then completely fell through. I essentially got ripped off. But we had $10,000. But we knew that God said debt was a curse. So we said, well, we're not going to go that way. We're not going to do that. And once we kind of rule out going the way He tells us not to, then we open up His opportunity and ability to do something else. He provided incredibly and miraculously in ways that don't even make sense. It's the whole reason I came online in the first place. And as just some crazy guy in the middle of nowhere with no real computer experience, who pretty much a computer was if a typewriter and a television got married and fell in love and had an offspring, that was a computer to me. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know nothing about the internet. But through some things I was doing online, all of a sudden we were able to pay cash for this land, fenced in the entire thing, paid cash for our mobile home. We don't have any debt. We own everything. And as I see things changing, That's why I'm sitting on this giant pile of lumber. That's why I have a big pile of other resources, that stuff people are throwing out these days. But I'll tell you what, look at what the lumber prices are doing at your local lumber yard. Look at the supply chain over the past year. Look at how much money is being printed out of nowhere. I would highly suggest, if they're willing to give you something that's not backed by anything, remember this is debt. They're printing debt. While it still has some value, invest it into something that's going to help you in the long run. If you have a portion of property, you can grow a lot of your own food. That's going to get you a lot further than constantly going to the grocery store. Okay, I may never have to buy sheep again. We had 11 this year already be born. And there's still another one that's going to give birth, and that's without breeding the 1-year-olds. That was 6 of them. I may never have to buy sheep again, but yet I have a grass-powered lawnmower that fertilizes as it goes, reproduces after its own kind, and feeds my family, plus it gives us milk. Because I had an initial investment. Soon, your dollars may not be able to buy sheep, or it's going to take a whole lot more to buy them. Maybe rather than spending even a couple hundred, much less a couple thousand on a lawnmower, invest it in some sheep and a fence. Let them do it for you. But maybe you got to live somewhere where you've got that freedom. The point is, things are not stasis, they're constantly changing. There's a lot of agendas to put you out of house and home, to make sure that you own nothing, to make sure that you're deep in debt, to make sure that you've got to be a spoke in their wheel for a very long time. That's the goal of some people. I prefer freedom. I prefer liberty. I prefer being able to choose what I do with my day, rather than having to be somewhere at 9 to 5, 6 days a week. I'd rather be free to wake up, open up the Bible with my family, spend some time in prayer, singing some praises, memorizing some scripture, reading and studying, enjoy our breakfast together, do our chores together, enjoy our lunch together, enjoy our dinner together, enjoy learning together, and really just to come out of the entire system. I don't like what it's become. I don't like the way that people think and behave that go to these indoctrination camps. They call them education camps. You know, there's a reason you have required courses. I once did a video called Don't Go to College. I'll post it up here somewhere. It's bright out here. There's a reason I believe that my channel doesn't do better, and that people are unsub from my channel frequently and stuff, and it's because of videos like Don't Go to College. It's because of some of the stuff that I've shared on here, and I definitely believe that to a degree, and I've seen evidence of that. But I think to have an opportunity to speak and share, I need to be a faithful steward of that, and I can't just play some game. You know, I just can't play some algorithm game, some content mill game. You guys have chosen to spend your time watching these videos. I want to encourage you. Get out of debt. If you're not in debt, don't go into debt. If you have a faith in God, let Him be God. Let Him be the Lord who provides. Let Him, in His timing, allow you the opportunity to live the life that He wants without going against the things He says. Hagar is always going to be waiting for you. Hagar is always going to be there. But God has a way too. So perhaps if you are to come out of her, my people, perhaps if you've realized you can work remotely over this past year, perhaps if your government's handing out money that, at least for now, has some sort of value, maybe you need to be using that wisely to free yourself up, because there comes a day in the age, and it's probably a lot closer than a lot of people realize, where those who have not come out of her, my people, are not His people. Where those who choose to go along with this world system, and there's a mark that's coming, there's a beast that's coming, there's other thing that's coming, there will be no hope for them. There will be no hope for them. I have better things to hope for eternally, and also in the present. So again, I'll I'll link my other channel and I'll be putting other stuff on there more frequently. There is some good stuff in the past. Not everyone's going to agree with it. I get that. I'm just trying to agree with God. I'm not trying to agree with any denomination, any pastor, any teacher, anything. I'm just trying to agree with God and take him at face value that if we obey him, it's better than the stuff we come up with on our own. And so far, I've seen a lot of evidence for that. And I've lived my own life, my own way for far too long. I was a slow learner. But since I've been trying to live my life his way, I enjoy it a whole lot more. And I see evidence that his path is much wiser. So we'll see you guys next time. For anyone who's still here, thank you. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up. It helps it get recommended to others. If you find value in this, please at least do that to hopefully put it before some other people's eyes, or share it with them as well. We have an opportunity. Take advantage of this opportunity. If they're going to hand you some of this, while it has value, please do something with it. If it's in the bank, it doesn't do anything for you. The power goes out, the bank can't give you your money. And a lot of times they limit how much of your money you can get. A lot of freedom there. Turn it into something useful. I got things I need to build. I've got a pile of lumber. I've got some other things. While I can get it, I'm going to get it. And then I'll be prepared for my future. I'll see you guys next time. Papa out.
Thank you for watching. Hit the like button. Thumbs up. But
We may not be on a physical pilgrimage to a land flowing with milk and honey, but you know what? If you have some land, you can get things that produce milk. Did you know that? Not only is this cow one day going to be used for milk, my children milk these sheep as well. And speaking of honey, if you get some beehives, you can have your own honey too.